Welcome, David Wiss here, registered dietitian, founder of Nutrition and Recovery. Today we're going to talk about circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms aren't just about sleep, they can be about nutrition, other health behaviors, and have links to a wide range of health outcomes, and today we focus on mental health. The central circadian pacemaker is in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and that is in the hypothalamus, responsible for many of our biological rhythms, mediates the interplay between us and our environment, and enables us to make adaptations. Now, the good news is that it can be entrained by food and eating times. Those of us that work with binge eating disorder know that there's often disruption in sleep and circadian patterns in those that binge eat, particularly if there's night eating. Now, it poses this question: can circadian rhythm focused interventions improve outcomes in those with binge eating? We know there's links between substance abuse, whether the circadian disruption comes from social behaviors or from genes is still being unpacked, but either way, it affects reward pathways, and reward pathways are primary predictors of drug seeking and drug taking. It then lends itself to this newer question: what about addiction like eating? Can circadian rhythms, whether someone's on a day pattern or night pattern, lead to more compulsive like eating, and what are the associations with things like diabetes? Circadian rhythms have been linked to mental health for a while. There are known interactions between circadian signals and cognitive functions, and we're still trying to figure out what are the mechanisms and what are the pathways. One pathway is through hormones, which connects the gut and the brain. We know that food intake can alter the expression of clock-controlled genes in certain tissues. So yes, sleep and meal hygiene can stabilize physiological rhythms, and what we eat can influence our GI peptide levels, and that's obviously going to communicate to the brain. More recently, it's been posed that the microbiome is a part of this big equation as a mediator between our eating and our circadian clocks, and this has become very, very interesting to the scientific community. What if the negative consequences following circadian disruption is linked to inflammatory processes caused by alterations in the intestinal barrier, and what role do microbes have in this picture? It's been proposed a gut microbiota circadian clock axis, linking adverse nutritional factors in early life to negative health outcomes later in life, using a life course perspective, considering the role of gut microbiome dysbiosis and circadian rhythms across the lifespan. So much of the evidence linking brain disorders and circadian dysfunction is correlational, so we don't know about causality. However, we know that certain individuals have higher risk for psychiatric disorders. And what does the role of circadian disruption have in this life course association? In public health, sleep has become very, very important. There's ways to track sleep. There's a lot of new devices, and I would suggest people become interested in this because the science is mounting rapidly. As addiction becomes more interesting, we're studying the brain, and because circadian rhythms are in the brain, there's going to be a lot of pathways between reward and the hypothalamus, and I think that if we can understand some of these patterns better, we might have novel treatments for addiction. And in good news, animal data shows that some of the negative effects of circadian disruption can be reversible. We can use diet, we can use health behaviors to reverse some of the disruptions, and how we can improve microbiota is still unknown. But what I do know is that in my practice, instead of immediately focusing on what to eat, I often get people to focus on when to eat. That's the foundation that needs to be in place before what to eat is even relevant. So this is an important part of the overall picture of health that needs more attention. If you have questions or comments, please, I'd love to hear from you.